Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. And on this episode, we're taking a slight turn off of the usual path. Anybody raise their hand ever heard of Sun, S-U-N, last name Tzu? He wrote The Art of War. And today we are going to do a comparison between Mr. President and the Republican Party and ignoring the perils of the art of war that the Chinese use. If you've never read it, go look it up and start reading it and have your eyes opened. Okay, so in this article by AMAC, they suggest that Mr. President should have consulted Sun Tzu's ancient book, or what they call tome, Tome, on strategy, leadership, and conflict before picking a fight with China. Mr. President and his party, the Republican Party, cast themselves as, yet Mr. President has been more bluster and brag than bite, often retreating after tough talk and increasingly looking like a paper tiger. Beijing, the capital of China, for those who don't know, by contrast, has kept his cool and time and seized the initiative on major issues. Could be because they know their history. The Art of War, Sun Tzu's ancient Chinese manual on strategy and leadership, has shaped thinking on conflict and power for more than 2 millennia. No, I'm afraid you're going to run out of fingers and toes. Use the computer. Its lessons are as relevant as in today's geopolitical rivalry as they were on the battlefield. Seen through this lens, Mr. President's China policy reveals a series of costly missteps. Mr. Tzu's most enduring lesson is simple, and I quote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles," unquote. Strategy starts with a clear eye view of both sides' strengths and weaknesses. And our Mr. President has ignored that advice. On the campaign trail, he boasted that tariffs would bring Beijing to its knees. However, China has already absorbed the lesson from their first trade war with us, and they were ready for a rematch. Mr. President misjudged Beijing's resolve to strike back, overlooked how deeply our U.S. businesses and consumers depend on Chinese manufacturing, and failed to see rare earths coming as a pressure point, like that deal with the Ukraine. The original Europeans came to this country. Why? Because they ran out of timber and natural resources. Something to think about. The gamble that Mr. President uttered and challenged China turned against him. These tariffs have hurt the U.S. economy, forcing the president to call Xi Jinping to seek a truce, a move that burnished global image and fueled nationalism in China, giving them more leverage at the table. What was the Chinese response? They followed another Mr. Tzu's maxims, quote, strike where they are unprepared, unquote. They targeted the U.S. farm exports and manufacturing hubs, hitting our president's political base directory. For those who don't remember, mega is part of the small farms and small ranches. I need not point out, by exiling or deporting all those immigrants, there were no one left to pick the crops or the fruits or shear the lambs. It tightened, that is, China tightened controls on rare earth exports and put the squeeze on our tech and, defense sectors. Guess what? The pressure worked. Mr. President slowed his tariff plans, softened the technology export restrictions, and even blocked Taiwan's president from passing through the United States to avoid a clash with who else? Big brother, China. Another misstep was that Mr. President's dismantling of America's global alliance network, our greatest long-term asset. What did Mr. Tzu warning about that? Quote, he will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all ranks. And the quote applies much to the geopolitics as to the battlefield. Unity means not just coherence at home, folks, but trust and cooperation abroad. That's what NATO is for. Allies, shall I spell it for you? ALLIES. And Mr. President has eroded both of them. Despite what you may think, we are not an island. So what does this spell for us? Domestic, DOMESTICALLY. Mr. President's second-term agenda has fused accusations of democratic backsliding, which has sparked nationwide protests and deepened our political polarization, undermining the values that once gave the United States moral authority. Whoops! Abroad, America First has often meant pulling America out, quitting the Paris Climate Accord. Oh, it doesn't exist. Really? Take a good look around. Walking away from the UN Human Rights Council and the World Health Organization, threaten NATO partners, cutting foreign aid, and slapping tariffs on allies as if they were adversaries. Each move has chipped away at our soft power and left our allies questioning whether Washington could still be kept and counted on. All those fancy words we said at the end of World War II. Goodbye. China has wasted no time exploiting that. Through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS, and the Belt and Road Initiative, China now has positioned itself as, quote, a responsible major power, unquote, on trade, climate, and development. And since Mr. President has returned to office, global surveys show China's image improving, while America has slid. Doesn't it bother you that we're already number 45 and 46 on the world ranking in education for STEM and math? Really? The richest nation? Well, let me reframe that. once was the richest nation in the world. Now it seems it's China. This backlash has been swift and helps China with their propaganda machine and reinforcing its narratives about U.S. hegemony. Big word, look it up. Hegemony. And unjust alliances. Look it up. UNJUSTALLIANCES. In the battle over global perception, meaning view, China has seized the high ground. We cannot afford to govern by impulse or chase short-term political wins. It needs to return to the basic rule of strategy, knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. What does that mean? Taking an honest measure of both sides' strengths and weaknesses, playing to our advantages and targeting China's vulnerabilities. Want to hear more? Go and listen over at our website, https:// passionateworldtalkradio.com/blog. It has all the information you need to review and listen to the rest of the story with the audio and the synopsis. Passionate World Talk Radio Network /blog. Read it, and instead of weeping, if you don't do something about the problem will do something about you. History does not bend to slogans. It bends to truth. Sun Tzu warned, know yourself, know your enemy, and you will not fear 100 battles. When our leaders ignore this, they invite defeat, not just on the battlefield, but in the soul of a nation. Lest we forget, history remembers. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. And Mr. President and Sun Tzu, TZU, The Art of War. Go Google it, look it up, and read it. Talk to your friends, neighbors, family, your teenagers. This world affects them and their future. If you don't do something about it, they will suffer. So do something while you still can. PassionateWorldTalkRadio.com /blog. Mr. President and Sun Tzu, have a great weekend.